Imagine an artist whose works capture both the splendor of kings and the suffering of the people. He is both the palace's most beloved portrait master and a hidden critic lurking in the shadows of the Inquisition. Sometimes he is called the last old master, and other times the first modern painter. His life was filled with light, yet dark nightmares seeped into his art. Today I'll take you on the journey of Francisco Goya, from his birth to the haunting black paintings. Fact 1. Goya's birth. In the spring of 1746, in a small and humble Spanish village called Fuendetodos, a child was born. His name was Francisco José de Goya y Lucientes. His father was a simple craftsman, skilled in gilding, while his mother came from noble roots. This mixed family background shaped Goya's future. He would grow up knowing both the hardships of common people and the glittering, yet sometimes hypocritical, world of the aristocracy. No one could have imagined that this little village boy would one day paint the portraits of kings and become one of the greatest inspirations of modern art. Fact 2. Childhood and youth. Little Francisco was different from other children, quiet yet with observant eyes that remembered everything. His village life was simple but full of curiosity. As a child, when Goya couldn't find paper, he would draw on walls, on the ground, and even on stones. Seeing this burning passion for art, his family sent him to the studio of José Luzán in Zaragoza. There, Goya practiced by copying classical paintings, honing his skills. But for young Goya, this was not enough. He wanted to learn more and test himself on grander stages. This ambition would take him, a few years later, to Italy, the cradle of classical art. Fact 3. Education in Italy. In 1769, young Goya decided that his small village, and even the limits of Madrid, were too narrow for his ambitions. He set off for the heart of art, Italy. At that time, Rome, Florence, and Parma were the greatest centers of artistic mastery. The streets were lined with ancient sculptures, the churches adorned with frescoes by Michelangelo and Raphael, and the palaces displayed works by the most famous masters of the era. All of it left visitors in awe. Goya spent hours studying the ancient sculptures, meticulously copying every muscle, every tiny detail. He knew that to become a master, it was not enough to train the hand. The eye must also be trained. He copied the works of masters to improve his technique, but he didn't stop there. He sought to understand the spirit and ideas behind each work. In 1766, he participated in an art competition in Parma. His piece, depicting Hannibal crossing the Alps, caught the attention of the judges. This was Goya's first international success and a powerful source of encouragement. Italy taught Goya more than just technique. There he learned a crucial lesson. True greatness in art comes not just from the brush, but from seeing the world in a new way. This unique vision would later shake all of Europe in his masterpieces like The Disasters of War and the haunting black paintings. Fact 4. Goya's religious beliefs. Goya grew up immersed in Spain's Catholic traditions, witnessing firsthand the church's role in daily life. But over time, his religious perspective went beyond mere belief. He developed a critical and observant view. Church themes appear frequently in his works, but Goya did not idealize religious symbols. Instead, he depicted the fear and obedience instilled by the church in a dramatic and realistic way. For Goya, religion was both a source of fear and pressure, and a window into understanding human behavior. His paintings reveal both the beauty of faith and its darker side when it becomes oppressive. This perspective added realism and deep emotional power to his art. In this way, Goya observed not just the influence of religion on buildings, but on the human soul itself, and he masterfully translated this onto canvas. Fact 5. Return to Madrid and first success. After his years in Italy, Goya was no longer just a painter. He was an artist with grand ambitions. Upon returning to Spain, he faced a new goal: to prove himself in Madrid. By the 1770s, Madrid was a vibrant center of art. Noble families, palace officials, and churches constantly sought new paintings. Goya seized this opportunity. Initially, he painted frescoes for churches, where religious scenes appeared more realistic and human, setting him apart from other artists. These works brought him great recognition, as he depicted the joys and sorrows of the people with subtle humor and vibrant colors. Viewers could see themselves reflected in his paintings. Madrid embraced Goya, but this was just the beginning. Soon he would be painting the portraits of kings and queens, becoming one of the most trusted and celebrated painters in the royal court. Fact 6. Connection with the royal court. By this time, Goya had become one of Madrid's most prominent painters. His works, which vividly portrayed everyday people, caught the attention of the royal court. In 1786, he experienced one of the greatest turning points of his life. King Charles III of Spain appointed him as the official court painter. This was the pinnacle for any artist. Working in the palace meant not only fame, but also great responsibility. Goya painted the portraits of kings, queens, and nobles. His brush did more than display beauty. It revealed character, strength, and vulnerability behind each face. His connection with King Charles IV and Queen Maria Luisa became especially famous. In their portraits, Goya conveyed not just splendor, but also a subtle, sometimes ironic realism, revealing the emptiness and artificiality behind the palace's grandeur. These years brought Goya both fame and risk. On one hand, he needed to gain the favor of the royals. On the other, his frank style sometimes provoked disapproval. Despite this, he became the most trusted and sought-after painter in the royal court. Fact 7. Serious illness and turning point. In 1793, Goya's life suddenly changed. He suffered a serious illness that left him almost completely deaf. This event shook him both physically and emotionally. Yet Goya did not rebel. Instead, this period became a major turning point in his art. From this point on, his paintings lost the bright colors and idealized subjects of earlier works. Instead, his brush created darker, more dramatic, and emotionally intense pieces. The dark side of human nature, fear, sorrow, and nightmares, became central themes in Goya's new style. This illness also pushed him toward deeper and more critical thinking. Goya no longer painted just the portraits of kings and nobles. He wanted to reveal the inner world of people and the sometimes harsh, twisted aspects of society. For Goya, illness was not an end, but a new beginning. He began to bring to canvas not only the visible world, but also the hidden and darker realities of life. Fact 8. The impact of war. In 1808, Napoleon's invasion of Spain left an indelible mark on Goya's life and art. He began to see not just the world of the palace, but the grief and horror experienced by the people. For Goya, war was not just about strategic battles. It was about witnessing human cruelty, fear, and suffering firsthand. He transferred these horrors onto canvas, resulting in his famous engraving series, The Disasters of War. These works depicted the brutality of French soldiers against the Spanish people, the execution of civilians, and the despair of a nation, all in dramatic detail. In Goya's paintings, blood and fear were more than visual elements. They symbolized the dark side of human nature. In works like The 3rd of May, 1808, these emotions reached their peak. On one side, armed soldiers, on the other, terrified yet courageous civilians. War became both a tragedy and a source of inspiration for Goya. Through his art, he communicated the horrors he witnessed to the world. These masterpieces left a lasting impact not only on Spain, but on the memory of humanity as a whole. Fact 9. Dark years and black paintings. Goya had grown older, but his art increasingly turned inward, into his inner world. Between 1819 and 1823, he transformed the walls of his home into canvases, creating the haunting series known as the Black Paintings. Gone were the earlier palace grandeur, bright colors, and idealized subjects. On the walls, every stroke of his brush revealed fear, nightmares, loneliness, and inner turmoil. The dark side of society, superstitions, and the fears within humanity were boldly exposed. Each painting carried a story, of fear, and emotion. Goya was no longer just depicting reality. He was making the viewer feel it. This period was a trial for him, both as an artist and as a person. He could only express the horrors he witnessed, life's bitter truths, and the dark aspects of human nature through these works. The Black Paintings later inspired modern and expressionist artists, because here, art was no longer about beauty. it revealed the dark labyrinth of the human soul. Fact 10. Death and legacy. In the final years of his life, Goya faced political and social pressures. In 1824, he left Spain and moved to Bordeaux, France, where he lived a quiet life filled with deep reflection. On April 16, 1828, Goya passed away, but his works became immortal. He left an indelible mark not only on Spanish art, but on the entire world. His art showed that a painter could capture not only what the eye sees, but also the light and dark sides of the human soul. Artists like Picasso, Dalí, Manet, and countless others drew inspiration from Goya, as he was a pioneer of realist, satirical, and expressionist art. Throughout his life, Goya demonstrated that art is not just about beauty, it is about telling the truth. His story reminds us that deep emotion, careful observation, and courage can immortalize art. So as we've seen, Francisco Goya was more than just a painter. He was a genius who captured both the splendor of palaces and the fears and sorrows of humanity on canvas. His life story shows us that art is not only about creating beauty, but also about speaking the truth. Remember, behind every artist's brush, there is a story. Sometimes only art can reveal what the eye cannot see. If you enjoyed this dramatic and inspiring story of Goya, make sure to subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell, and stay updated with future videos. Let's continue to explore historical stories together.